All right, so wanted to make a quick little video here today, kind of just talking about my first 10 months into my journey of jiu-jitsu, which sounds kind of cliche to say, your journey, but um, kind of crazy just to think of. Like, I think you're hearing a lot of people talking about jiu-jitsu and how, it completely changed their lives, and sounds, like, oh, like, just a hobby or whatever. But can really say probably these last 10 months there's a lot that has changed in my life from jiu-jitsu in great ways. So taking a look at just kind of my experience before starting jiu-jitsu. So I did wrestle for about, I'd probably say 8 to 9 years, where we're pretty competitive, for probably a little bit more where I did just some more training. Probably 8 to 9 years of competitive wrestling. And kind of taking a look at, I'm 27 right now, so my last year where I had competed and been really training consistently on the mat for wrestling was probably at the age of 20. That was probably the last time. Yeah, I think I was about 20 years old. So kind of didn't really do too much after that. Up until a couple years ago, I did start coaching wrestling and getting back on the mats there. So that kind of helped build me up a little bit more in terms of like my cardio and just being more on the mat and being a little bit more comfortable. Up until in October of 2022, I did end up joining a jiu-jitsu gym here in Madison, Wisconsin, where I live. I will say when I first started, so obviously wrestling played a big role, kind of stepping on the mats day one. But also what played a big role is I've always been a pretty big MMA fan. So I've always enjoyed watching and seeing wrestling. And then also with my wrestling background, I was always much more interested with the jiu-jitsu aspect of a fight. But also too, with that, being a fan of MMA, it made me dive a little deeper in jiu-jitsu. So I had actually already kind of seen quite a bit of jiu-jitsu matches. Got to see guys like Nicky Rod, Gordon Ryan, like mainly all those Danaher Death Squad guys before kind of their breakup. So I was a little bit more familiar with jiu-jitsu than I guess maybe someone that has truly no experience whatsoever in like any grappling or never really was an MMA fan or something like that. So I had a pretty big background behind, like just to get me a little bit more comfortable and familiar from stepping on the mat for the first time for a jiu-jitsu school. But yeah, kind of stepping right away in the gym that I had first joined, which I'm still at, but now I probably actually would say there's another gym I train at a little bit more, but kind of both training at both gyms here. But right away, I mean, it just kind of felt pretty comfortable just being on the mat. Really just, I mean, I've had so many years of wrestling. It's just something that I was a little comfortable with right away, kind of stepping off. I will say with that gym, it's a Gracie Baja school, so I did do a little bit more of gi at that point in time. I think predominantly it was in the gi. Now we're actually kind of seeing a little bit bigger shift towards the no gi in that school. And then there's another school I go to where it's pretty much no gi with a little bit of gi. But really that was the biggest discomfort right off the bat, is just being in the gi. Especially you're going against someone that has pretty good grips. I mean, that was probably the only point where I was like, what the heck is going on? But other than that, felt kind of pretty natural to make the jump into jiu-jitsu. And kind of right away kind of just got into like obviously like learning techniques, learning concepts, and kind of getting into that live rolling. So right away, I mean, I just really enjoyed it. And kind of right off the bat, I mean, I think I was at that point, I was probably training 3 to 4 times a week, trying to make it as much as I could, but just depending with my work schedule. So kind of right away, I mean, just dove in and loved just learning these different things. And I think that's been the biggest thing in the past 10 months that's just been super enjoyable. Sometimes a little frustrating at times is the fact that there's just so much to learn. I feel like in wrestling, from my background, there's really kind of, getting really good at a few different things, in my opinion. There's a couple takedowns that I was, really good at, couple escapes from bottom, breakdowns from top. And you get really good at those, and obviously other techniques and you do use them, but it's more of getting really good at a couple different things. With jiu-jitsu, there's just so many different positions, whether you're playing top game, bottom game, going into the leg lock entry, and then like there's just so much to learn, that it's just been really enjoyable for me, just because I do like just kind of learning new things. At the same time, it can get a little frustrating, though, I will say, because it just kind of more seems overwhelming. I'm the type of person that I just kind of want to try to know everything kind of too fast, and I kind of will beat myself up and like, oh, how do I not know that? How do I, and then I'm trying to overwhelm myself, and then I get to the point where like so much is coming in that it's going right out, the other side. So that's kind of been like one of the biggest things that has kept me so interested in it and pursuing it. But at the same time, like I have to kind of slow myself down and think about like I've only been doing this for a short period of time, so I got to give myself some grace of not, beating myself up of like how I don't know this and how I don't know that. But kind of right away too, I will say like, within the first 2 months, I think, did a competition. I was in the gi for that one. Just kind of had a couple matches, so didn't really feel like too different. I guess for that one, it's just I'd probably say the biggest thing is like in jiu-jitsu competitions, which I think is so weird still to this day, is like matches are pretty much back to back because they do just brackets, which I don't know. That's kind of just a whole different rabbit hole there, but. Other than that, I've competed so much in wrestling, like it wasn't that big of a jump to compete in jiu-jitsu, so I think that's why I did it like pretty early on. And then in these past 10 months, I think I've competed like 5 or 6 times, so it's been quite a bit of competitions, as my body allows. Being 27, not to say that I'm old or anything, but definitely just have to be a little bit more aware of my body and any potential injuries that I might have dealt with, which there's been a few, but nothing like too crazy, I would say. But yeah, the biggest thing with jiu-jitsu, just my biggest thing in these past 10 months was just like it really has kind of changed my goals, and then also changed kind of my life too. When I first started jiu-jitsu, I was probably walking around like 235, 240. Now I'm at the point I'm walking pretty consistently like around 210, 215. So definitely like just a lifestyle change, that benefit for my overall health of losing weight, just the fitness aspect of it too, getting in that, grappling shape, which I truly believe is, different than any other type of conditioning or cardio. So I think that's super valuable. Also with just kind of the people that I've met too. I've met some great people that I call friends now from jiu-jitsu. I've been to their weddings. I've been traveling with them where we spent time together. So it's truly cool that you get to meet these people, and the connections I think are very different. I don't know. It's just something really cool that I think you do can see in jiu-jitsu. Granted, being at a good school, obviously, I'm not going to say every school is probably great, and maybe the connections aren't the same there. But if you find a cool place, these can be really good friends of yours that you end up making. With these past 10 months, I think my biggest thing too has been just trying to expose myself to as much different levels as I can. With these past 10 months, kind of always looking at whether it's in competitions or going to different training rooms and like trying to just expose myself of like what the different levels are to jiu-jitsu. With the school that I currently go to, I'd probably say it is much more of a hobbyist school. There's a few people that are competing, but probably more of a hobbyist school, which is nothing wrong with that. But then getting the ability to go to different gyms, like there's pretty much 2 gyms that I train at now. There's another gym that is like much more of like an MMA focused gym, so you have guys that are a little bit more competitive there and kind of just a different atmosphere there. So kind of being able to see those different types of rooms. But then also I did early in this year, I did get the chance to go to Austin, Texas, and go train at B Team and Henzo Gracie. So being able to be a part of those environments and seeing like, okay, what does that level look like? Which I think is super important, even if you are a hobbyist, just to maybe go to different rooms and kind of just see like, okay, what are the differences that you see? Because then that kind of exposes you and just gives you different insight. I think, for me, I do think pretty quickly I wanted to try to pursue more of that competitive side, and that's why I've really pushed to try to maybe do some more competitions that I think some people might do, but then also go out to these different places, gyms in my area or Austin, Texas, and be able to train at those places just to see kind of the level of jiu-jitsu, I guess, that these different places can have. So it's been pretty great and fun experience to get started. Right now I am at the point where the goal is to try to be as competitive as possible and kind of see for these next hopefully everything goes well, but the next 5 years, longer than that, see how good I can kind of get on a personal level. I am motivated to get the chance to do some of these ADCC Opens that are popping up, ADCC trials, like these bigger IBJJF tournaments, Nogi Pans, Nogi Worlds. Granted, everything, going well for me in terms of training goes well. Injuries, I think, are a big thing too, just to be aware of. Like, I'm not going to be at the point where I'm going to be trying to, fight through injuries, I guess, too much, taking care of myself. Again, not necessarily old, but being 27, I want to make sure I'm doing things smart. But it has been fun to kind of try to push myself and get myself to a level where I hopefully can try to compete at a high level. And even in the competitions that I'm doing, trying to kind of slowly work my way up there. The biggest thing more that I'm doing is just really kind of diving more deep into that no-gi side. I do train in the gi a little bit, probably once or twice a week, but really my focus is going to be in no-gi. Just with my wrestling background, I think the transition there is much more smooth. The biggest thing that I think has helped me in these past 10 months has really been to kind of just branch off into different areas. For me personally, I think that's what helps me stay engaged, but then also just like trying to piece things together. So I know some people like really want to dive into one area specifically for months at a time, weeks at a time, whatever the case may be. But I do like to try to like, develop different areas kind of at the same time, but also have an understanding like how these different positions or systems, whatever, kind of connect together. So I think that also, like, right now at the point, like, I'm watching a lot of jiu-jitsu with competing. I think that's helped me so much with kind of realizing like what's working for me, what's not working for me. So it's been a pretty cool experience so far to get started. At the 10-month mark, I feel like I feel like so much time has passed, but at the same time no time has passed. I don't know, it feels super weird. Like, I feel like and it's hard to gauge like, okay, where should I be at? I mean, there's really no set marker like, hey, at 6 months, at 10 months, 12, whatever the case. Like, I guess there's no set marker. So like every day I'm just kind of treating it, being able to hopefully be training, studying jiu-jitsu, watching jiu-jitsus, learning different things. I do think kind of leading up to going forward, really kind of just continuing that ramping up process of like training more, training consistently is the biggest thing, and just trying to learn and develop as much as I can. Again, kind of these past 10 months with doing 5-6 competitions already, my goal is to hopefully be able to kind of continue a good pace of competing, but also I think I do have a lot of data back from these 10 months that that really can allow me to continue to build off of. And that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to do at this point in time. But yeah, right now kind of just, do train at a couple different gyms, kind of just focusing on developing in different areas. I'm so early on into jiu-jitsu that I'm going to enjoy keep training and keep doing what I can, and kind of want to make just videos just to kind of be able to look back and see, like, okay, where was I at? How did things look like at that point in time? And kind of just hopefully see that timeline and be able to look back and reflect, and then also being able to adjust going forward. So yeah, just wanted to make a quick little video. It's kind of like a rambling on, but just kind of wanted to put what I had in my head here on a quick video.